Oh, how you doing? I hope everyone's okay. We've had a really mixed week. There's been really windy days. We've just come out of some really cold days, and we've had some really wet days, and it's very much like winter. But there are really lovely signs of spring around the corner. So I'm going to show you one of these signs of spring that I found. Here we go. I wonder if anybody knows what type of flowers I have growing in my flower pot here. You can just see there, that's the flower coming through. There's a very tiny one there. I'll come on to that one in a minute. And one there as well. You might have these at home. I wonder if anybody can put their hands up and tell the class. That's right, they're called hyacinths. And hyacinths are a real sign of spring. And what hyacinths do is they flower kind of February time, maybe into March. So they're just starting to flower now. These are indoors, so they're flowering a little bit earlier than some of the outdoor ones. And you get them in pinks and purples and whites. They're beautiful. And they will flower in February and March. And then in the ground, the flowers, the leaves, these bits will die back. And the bulb, which is under the soil here, where it's dripping water all over my desk, so I've got to be careful. The bulb, which is under the water here, stores all the energy over the next few months, right the way through the year. And it uses the roots, and you can see these white roots sticking out of the bottom of the pot. And it uses that to gather up the energy, to absorb the energy from the soil. And by the time it gets to this stage, it's pretty much done. It's got all the energy it needs to make the flower. So if I wanted, I could take the bulb out of the water, out of the soil, and I could cut the roots off. I could take the soil away, and it would still make the flower because all the energy it needs is buried in that special bulb under the soil. So you can buy these in the supermarkets at the moment. But I wonder, put your hand up if you have seen bulbs growing in gardens. It might be that somebody at home is a really keen gardener. Put your hand up if you've got them. Now, I said I'd mentioned this one. This is really cool, this one. It's really tiny, look. It's a really tiny bulb there compared to that big fella there. And the reason is these bulbs, which are under the ground, over time will split and divide, and that's how you get more and more hyacinths. So I bought this one particularly because there's an extra flower. So there's a bulb there. It's a bit bigger, a bit smaller than my fist. And it's split, and there's a second one called a bulbil, a small one that has grown off from the main one, and that's why we've got a small flower there. And then the next year that will grow into a full-size hyacinth like that. But next year I won't be showing it to you on a screen like this or in any other way. I will be enjoying that growing as a full-size flower in my garden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these flower here. And then when they flowered and the flowers have died off, I'm going to take them home. And when all of the greenery has died back, I'll cut it all off with some secateurs, with some gardening scissors, put that in the compost bin, and then I'll plant the bulbs in my garden. And I've got loads of hyacinths growing in my garden because I quite like these. And in fact, so does my mum. So what happens is that mum's got so many flowers in these hyacinths that she's planted out into her garden over the years. She's now got no more room, so she gives them to me. And my garden is getting full of hyacinths as well. So I will plant these out, and they'll spend all spring and summer and winter absorbing the water, the moisture, the nutrients through the roots. And then next spring, they'll grow again like that. Now, the other thing that's really cool about hyacinths, and one of the reasons people buy them and have them in their houses at this time of year, because I bought this from the supermarket, is that they smell really strongly. It's a really powerful smell. Now, I like it as a smell on its own, but I also like it because, like I said, my mum really loves this, and it reminds me of my childhood, because we always had hyacinths in the house when I was young. So it's something that is a very evocative memory for me. So I wonder if you've got something that really triggers a memory of being with your family. Some people, smell is a really strong trigger of memory. So what makes you remember being with family more than anything else? Okay, have a quick chat in class. I'm going to put this back in its pot Comes in one of these paper pots. And while you talk in class, I'm going to very quickly mop up my desk. Otherwise, I'm going to be putting my elbows in water while I'm talking to you, because the water has dripped off those roots. I've just put too much in slightly. Right, there we go. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is, over the first 2 weeks of term, we were talking in assemblies about people who were really inspirational. We talked about people who were living in Ghana, who invested in chickens and created a massive chicken farm. And it's about people who have solved problems. Well, I'm going to give you a very real life example today. I'm going to share with you some information about a charity and about some people that Mrs. Webb and I met when we were in Kenya, and that's nearly a year ago now. So when we were in Kenya, we went to a school called Najuro Special School. It's in Najuro Township, and it's a school for children who have additional needs. They might have some kind of problem that makes it difficult for them to learn, or there might be physical needs. And across the road from the school is a charity called the Potter's House. Okay, the Potter's House CBO, and it helps people in Kenya. So the Potter's House uses APT, which is appropriate paper-based technology. Now, I think there's some things I'm going to show you in this that are really, really amazing, and there'll be pictures and stuff, and I'll give you some of the information because it's about solving a problem. So APT Kenya is a project addressing the needs of children living with physical disabilities in Kenya. Okay, so it's based in Najuro Township, so people at Najuro DEB could benefit from this. So physical disabilities. In England, we go to the hospital, we go to the doctor, and we get help, but that help isn't readily available in Kenya. So the people at APT make assistive devices like chairs, standing frames, and parts for wheelchairs. And it's changing children's lives, but it also provides an income for families. So parents from the families that the Potter's House work with are employed to paper and paint the devices, and this is helping them to feed their family and pay school fees for their children. So here's what happens. Right, if you look at these pictures, we've got this first one, which is here, okay, top left, and that's lots of cardboard. And the cardboard is being measured and cut out to size, okay? And the cardboard is glued together in several layers. And when that glue is dry, it's really covered in papier-mâché. So it's got glue and torn up newspaper. And then it's that's put on, and it's dried and hardened, and it's put together to make these sorts of things. So this is a wheelchair insert. So it's an adult's wheelchair, but it's got an insert in it for a child. Okay. Here we go. So you can see there, the sides of the chair have been moved in. There's a support at the back and a support for the head, because this is a wheelchair that would fit me if I needed it. But this is all the only wheelchair that's available. So there wasn't one available for a smaller person. And the parts have been put together, fitted together with the cardboard, with the appropriate paper-based technology. And this has been created for a child who couldn't get out anywhere. Now, that child might have had to stay at home, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to get out. So let's have a look at another picture. So let's go back and look at how this is being measured up now. Some of the parents, these are parents in Najuro. Some of these adults will have children who need the standing frames, need the support. So some of the parents will buy the standing frames if they can afford to, and others can't afford to buy the bits for the wheelchair or the standing frames. So they go and work on them, and they get paid to do this. So the charity helps people to have the standing frames and helps people into work, and that pays for the children to have the frames and to go to school. So here we go. We've got a mum, and this lady is putting the papier-mâché, you can see the torn up bits of newspaper with the glue on this standing frame, and this will help somebody who can't stand to stand upright by supporting their legs. So everybody has different jobs. It's a really big kind of team effort. Some people will do the measuring, Some people will do the cutting out, and some people will do the sticking, and some people will do the painting. And you can see here that the papier-mâché has been used to glue the different parts of the cardboard together. And here we go. So this is a child who couldn't stand up on their own because of their physical disability. So they now have, this is called a standing frame, and they get put into this and they're kind of strapped in like that using those ties at the back. And then they have this place at the front with the flowers, this tray where they can put toys, or for older children, they can put school books, and they can read and they can learn. And it helps children to have the best possible chance in life. Now, in the UK, we might have a standing frame that is made of metal and plastic. But these things aren't available readily in Kenya. The hospitals aren't there to look after the children. So this place, this charity, APT in Najuro, the Potter's House Run, is one of very, very, very few places. So it's a really important thing because it helps children from around and about, because these physical disabilities are much more common in Kenya because they have poorer healthcare. Here's a finished standing frame. Well, this one is actually more seated. And you can see there's straps there and the tray to sit on. And again, we've got the bright colors, and we've got the bar at the side, and that will hold the legs in place there so that so the person who's using it doesn't fall out. And there we go, we've got a child sitting in it, having a drink from the cup, and just being able to live their best life, do the best things. And you can see there's, because we've got the number square behind them, there's somewhere where they can learn. Now that child, if they hadn't been in this chair, if the Potter's House charity hadn't existed, they would have been at home. And they might have been lying on a mat, and they wouldn't have been able to move. And that would be it. That would be their life. They would be looked after by their family, but because there isn't the healthcare available, that would be all that they would do. And there's another example of a standing frame with the ties at the back, just scraps of cloth that are cut up. It doesn't have to be anything massive and huge. It doesn't have to look great, although this one, let's face it, look at those designs. You know, there's a really good artist who's used stencils or whatever to do that. It's a really neat piece of work, but it doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to look amazing. But what you can do to help the people is actually pretty incredible. Now, I met Ruth, who helps to run this charity. Ruth lives not too far away from here in Wrexham. And she spends some of her time out in Kenya. Some of her time is fundraising, and some of her time is working with the people who make these chairs and frames and things, teaching them how to work and how it can be sustainable. So there's an overwhelming need for these devices, but families can't access them or afford them. So when Ruth and her team visit the homes, they see many children confined to their home, unable to leave, spending the days lying on the floor or the bed, and they can't sit up or stand, can't take part in family life or be part of the wider community. So day after day, they lie on their own in the same position with no stimulation or therapy, and the children can develop fixed contractures. So like that is a contracture of the muscle there. And it means that if I had a fixed contracture, I couldn't straighten my arm. So they lie like that, and then they can't move. So their life is lonely and painful. There's local people, locally sourced materials. They're not having to bring the cardboard in from a really long way away. They get it all from local shops when they've had boxes delivered. Is providing an answer to the lack of needed equipment, and is changing people's lives. So here we've got one of our parents who is working on this half-completed chair, and you can see that there's bits of ties that are in place while the glue is setting, and those ties will hold the chair together while the glue sets. So appropriate paper-based technology, APT, is a low-cost and sustainable solution for bespoke postural supports. So bespoke means it's made for the individual. It's not one size for everybody. And a postural support, posture is to do with how you sit. This is your posture, good posture for handwriting. For children with disabilities, using recycled cardboard and paper. So we're all about the global goals. We've got a charity in Kenya who is using parts of the global goals. And these things are constructed using engineering principles. They're strong and they're light. 3 layers of thick corrugated card are layered and glued together using paste made from flour and water. And after cutting, the pieces are slotted together, tied with strips using nylon tights. Used tights that ladies were wearing. The structure is reinforced with strips and rods of thin cardboard and then covered with newspaper and glue, and finally thick paper, such as those used as bags for flour or animal feed, and then decoration. So these devices are made to fit individual children. These kids are measured up. So everyone is absolutely specific and no two are the same. And it helps them keep a comfortable, functional position. That means a functional position is one where you can work and do things, either sitting or standing. And it helps prevent those contractures, helps prevent spinal deformity, where your spine is twisted in an odd shape. And it can improve digestion and bowel function. It means that you can eat and go to the toilet more comfortably. And it also means that the children's skin doesn't get harmed by lying in the same place. So kids can play, communicate with people around them, and it makes their lives better. It's a pretty incredible charity, isn't it? So when I was in Kenya in February last year, I took that photo of a nearly finished standing frame, and that's in the workshop. You can just see the feet of somebody working there, and you've got the big pile of flour and water and paste, and that's the bags torn up that are going to be turned into the cover for that standing frame. So, like I said, it's a very inventive, a very different solution. It's inspirational because people have seen a problem and they've thought about the global goals. They've thought about partnerships. They've talked about reduced inequalities. They've talked about responsible use and consumption. So they're recycling things. There's so many global goals involved in that project. But ultimately, Ruth and her team are making their little part of the world a better place for other people. That's a pretty incredible thing. And it's using stuff that we know how to do. I bet most of you have done papier-mâché projects at home, and that's just taking it a next step on. Incredible, incredible people. There we go, guys. I just wanted to share that one with you because I think it's inspirational. You guys, I think, are inspirational. You inspire me when I see your learning every day, when I see how hard you work and the effort that you put in. And I think you could all go on to do anything that you wanted to help other people around the world. Have a lovely rest of the day, guys. Bye-bye.